David, good to see you again.
Hey, Daniel. It's been a long time. Good to see you.
It has been a long time. And Lauren was asking me earlier who we're going to talk to. And I said, well, do you remember the guy we met in Biarritz that had all like the collection of money? And here, look,
I
yep. And he had the special, you had that special dollar bill from El Salvador.
Yep,
No,
yep, exactly. From El Salvador. It's the prophetical bill from El Salvador, where the numbers match the years of the foundation of the Central Bank of El Salvador, the peg into the US dollar, and then 21. So infinity divided by 21. And 21 is the year that El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. So it's kind of crazy. It's a prophetical bill that has the whole history of the money of El Salvador. Crazy.
was it a colon
Yeah, no,
or
no.
was it a dollar bill?
Sorry, no, I don't remember what I think I have it. Yeah, well, actually, I have it right there. Cologne. Just give me a second. I'm gonna find
Hmm.
it here. And by the way, during I'm looking at to find it, Citadel 21, the magazine, published an article about it. Actually I wrote an article about it, and I'm telling the whole story of the money there. And you're right, it's colognes. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It is cologne. So I don't know if you see it, but the serial number here um reflects, as I said, the history of the money there, the colognes. And I just bought it out of eBay because I saw the 821 at the end of the number, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. So I bought it, and after that, I did some bits of research, and I was able to match the rest of the serial number with the foundation of the central bank and the peg to the US dollar. Yep,
Yeah, it's very cool,
crazy,
man.
right?
Very cool. So people should
Oh,
go and check out that article that you wrote. But I was lucky enough to actually see it in person, and you talked me through it, and all of these little epiphanies dropping. You're like, man, this is yeah, prophetic to say the least.
prophetic. Yep, it was meant to be, I guess.
So, Lauren, what did you have a question for David?
Yeah, why do you give out worthless money? Like, what made you go like, I'm gonna start giving out worthless money now?
Great question. Um, I found those bills out of eBay from a guy in the United States, and he was selling a lot of them. I bought them by bricks. You know, bricks is 1,000 bills, and this supplier out of eBay was selling like 20 of them at a time each week or each twice a week. He was selling them, and I was able to buy them for pretty cheap, like $25, 25 US dollar per brick, you know, so it's about 2.5 cents each. So I bought a few bricks first just for the novelty of it, you know, to have it like a real brick, like this one right here in my hands. And then as an author of a book, I was looking for bookmarks to buy some custom bookmarks on from a supplier, you know, go online and go to a website a supplier that will create a bookmark for me and print it. And I think the price was like something like $50 for 500 bookmarks, you know, 10 cents per bookmark, something like that. And then I realized, well, I guess it would give a better effect if I would just buy some bricks of dead fiat money and pay 2.5 cents each instead of 10 cents each and give them out to people. So at first it was an idea to give them as bookmark for my books, but then I decided to buy more. I bought 14 bricks, and I actually I only have 9 left. So I distributed 5,000 bills in different conferences. Well, in Miami, in Biarritz, in at Annecy in France, in Montreal, obviously, every conference I go. And I think it has an effect on people. I've made a conference. Uh, I did a presentation about Bitcoin in a hacking conference, you know, Hackfest in Quebec, and the the quantity of people I was able to bring in to my session by giving them out money free money. It was like, why are you giving that? How much is worth? And I'm like, well, nothing, it's inflation. So what about inflation? Well, I'm talking about inflation in my session. So I was able to bring some people to the session I was presenting about inflation, doing that. So to answer your question, Lauren, sorry, I speak I speak a lot. To answer your question, is that I do that to make people realize what is inflation and what is the real worth of paper money. The real worth of paper money from those third world country is about as less, in fact, than a bookmark. That's the answer. I distribute them because it was cheaper than buying some custom bookmarks. There you go.
Yeah, and it is very effective because it gets people talking.
Yeah, but not only that, it's like effective on how to make people talk, but because you on the money, it's like very beautiful. I know my brother has like a load of useless money upstairs in his drawer, but like I just open them, I'm like, wow, that is a pretty like piece of money that used to be sad it's gone. Oh, is it sad? I'm not sure. And so not only people like see, wow, it's so pretty, it's so sad it's left.
Yep. And
All
it's
part of the
sad.
trick.
It's sad for the actually when I give them out, I think it's really sad for the people of Venezuela because they actually paid for it. And I had the number, and I read that in a magazine. I had the actual price. They paid something like, I don't know, let's say $20 million from a Russian company to buy this batch of fiat money, paper money, because they have to pay to make them print. So, and as I guess that almost as soon as they received it, it was worth less. So imagine that the people of Venezuela actually paid for this money, and after that, I could be was able to well, and you know what? They paid about 3 cents per bill. Themselves. That's the cost of making. That's about the cost of making that money. So I was able to buy back this money at cost and distribute it for free in conference. So it's really sad for the people in Venezuela to see that their mismanagement from their government had made them pay for this worthless paper money that didn't last long enough to reach the market. So basically that's the reason I got them. It's because it went worthless so fast that they were not even able to distribute it before it was worthless. So you have the the best example you have there. The bricks are brand new. They come from like the Central Bank or something. And yeah, so now, but the cool thing here is that it's not wasted because people are able to use it as bookmarks and realize how stupid fiat money is. Yeah.
Oh, so much. Ugh.
Yep.
Right. You done?
I think I am.
Okay.
Thank you. All right,
Hey, thank you, Lauren.
All right,
Thank you. Have
see
a
you.
good day.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
So, David, the last time you came on, we talked about your book, and I can't remember if at that point it had been translated into English. So let's give that a quick shill and make sure people are aware that your book is now in any other languages. I mean, originally
Yes.
French, now English. What else?
Yes, originally French. Now it's available. Well, the title in French was Tout sur Bitcoin, so something like all about Bitcoin, and we translated with some friends. And now the title in English is Bitcoin: Everything You Need to Know. It's the same blue book with the moon on the front. So it's the best book, I guess, to give out to your family or people that you want to arrange bill. I was a newbie when I wrote it, but I asked a lot of Bitcoiner that were way more advanced than me at the time, and to be sure that everything was right. And so the good thing about it, it was written by a newbie, not an expert. If I would have to write it now, I don't think I could do it the way I did back then because back then I taught like a newbie, so I was able to explain the whole thing. Now I think I would have a little bit of problem redoing the whole thing because I'm somewhere else in my journey in Bitcoin. So that's pretty much it. And I explain like everything. I explain how it works, why it has value, some future perspectives. Yeah, it's a pretty complete book, and I talk about money because it's super important. I talk the origin of money, inflation. It's the whole package. That's why it's called Everything You Need to Know. Obviously, there's not everything you need to know about Bitcoin in there, because as you, you to know everything about Bitcoin, I guess you need to read maybe 20 books and more. But for a newbie, for someone who start his journey in Bitcoin, it's the right way to start. And I give example of books you need to read if you want to dig deeper in, let's say, history of money, why buy Bitcoin from our friend Andy. If you want to know more the financial aspect and of it, a lot of example like that. Well, it's a Jan's book also. If you want to know, dig deeper on how Bitcoin works. So I cover every subject. So it's a great book to give out for Christmas to your family if you're tired of explaining Bitcoin over and over to the same people, just give them the book.
And where's it available now?
On Amazon. It's available on Amazon, any country, UK, United States, Canada, France, anywhere on Amazon. It's super easy to access. And I also write another book about ChatGPT in the meantime, since we talked.
Really?
It's already available in France. Yeah, I with some friends, I wrote a book, a bit like my book about Bitcoin. It's called Tout sur ChatGPT, so something like all about ChatGPT. In French, it's the same. It's the same process. I tried to learn how those AI works and explain in the book. So I've been pretty busy researching and writing in the last few months and years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good to know, mate. And for those people that are coming in new to the Bitcoin rabbit hole, you just mentioned, well, first your own book, Inventing Bitcoin, Why Buy Bitcoin. These are brilliant first touch points, or second, third, fourth touch points. You can, 21 Lessons by Gigi, obviously another
Yep,
one.
exactly.
All of these resources. I thought your book might have been on Consensus Network. Is it not up there yet?
It is. Yes,
It
it
is on
is.
there as well. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So bitcoinbook.shop, and then use the code BITTEN, and you can get 10% off of David's book, and any of the others that we've just mentioned are all up
And you
there
can
as
even
well.
pay with Bitcoin if you buy it there, so it's even better.
And if you pay in Bitcoin, you get another 10% off. So there's like literally no excuse to not go and support a Bitcoin business. Play around. If you're really new, perhaps you don't have Bitcoin, so you can use fiat as well there, but go to that place rather than Amazon, and support the work of the authors and the business builders in this space. But if you are kind of a little bit further down the rabbit hole, and you want to test out Lightning or using Bitcoin as a payment, use that on the site, and you'll get another 10% off. It's great to see these little initiatives. So nice quick shield for bitcoinbook.shop and all the other authors, and your book as well. So the reason we wanted to reconnect was to talk about inflation and
Yes.
the truest definition of inflation, and get into, because you've been down the rabbit hole on inflation and back, and then gone back down again and back. And
Yes.
I like doing these kind of series, deep dives on what people think are basic topics, because they soon realize, oh shit, I had no idea. So, and I've been doing the same with Parker. We're going through Parker's book gradually, then suddenly. We've done Bitcoin, not blockchain. We've just done chapter 1 as well, Bitcoin obsoletes all other money, and then we're going to do, I can't remember the name of the chapter, but basically going back over the building blocks, the foundational blocks of Bitcoin, and economic terminology such as inflation. So where do you want to dive in, mate? Where do you want to start the learner off on their journey into actually understanding what inflation is?
We always need to start with the definition, because one of the reason that inflation is a subject so hard to talk about is because everyone has a different definition. So I guess that for monetarists, so monetarists are the people who think that inflation is directly linked with the monetary mass. they will say that inflation is just a term that equals the expansion of the monetary mass. Basically, that's their definition. And I think that's the right definition. That's the original definition, but we can't use that definition, unfortunately, because the subject is wider now. There's those MMT folks that talk about inflation. MMT is the modern monetary theory. They talk about inflation, and when they talk about inflation, they don't talk about the expansion of the monetary mass, because what they claim that if you expand the monetary mass, it won't cause inflation if the money goes to the right place. So it's basically central planning. Basically they're right. By the way, I'm going to explain that they're completely right, but they're just proponents of central planning, and we all know that central planning is not working. So it's not that they're wrong. It's just that they want to plan the economy. So, and we all know that it's not working. So we're going to dive into that later. So that's one of the definition. It's the original definition, so the expansion of the monetary mass. But the second definition, which is the correct one, if we want to talk about inflation with a broader audience, it's that it's the price increase, a general price increase in the economy. And the key here is the word general. Simply because the only way to have a general price increase is to add some more money in the economy. So think about that. Let's say that you have an energy shock, okay? Like in the 70s and 80s, you have an energy shock. So I don't know, oil is I don't know, twice as expensive. So everything that use energy like oil will cost more, right? So price will increase. But if price increases on one sector of the economy, so anything that use energy, so it kind of a lot of the economy, I know, but prices there will increase. But if you don't add more money, you're going to have some price decrease on some other part of the economy, because if more money goes left, there's going to be less money for the right, so it will stabilize. So people will spend more, let's say, on energy, and they will spend less on other things like, I don't know, travel, food, whatever they can spare. So when you have price increases that are just on some part of the economy, that's not inflation. That is price increase. So that's where the word general price increase, a general price increase in the whole economy, you always need more money to be added, so that every price is go up on a broader level. And that circled back to the first definition, because if all the prices are going up at the same time, guess what? You need more money. So that's why I like this definition. It's not the purest definition for, let's say, the Austrian economists. I guess they would prefer to refer to the expansion of the monetary mass. But when you think about it, if you say that inflation is generalized and continuous rise in price level, if you think about that, it circled back to the idea that you need to add more money. So inflation is a generalized and continuous rise in the price level, basically. So that's the definition I use when I talk about inflation.
Where do you find people, like just the general normie on the street, what's their basic definition in their minds of inflation?
Oh, they will say that if the price go up at the pump, it's inflation. If the food goes up, it's inflation. Every price increase is inflation for them. So yeah. So in it, let's say you're in a fixed you're in an economy with a fixed amount of money, like the monetary mass is fixed. obviously you will have some price rise sometime because of offer and demand. So I don't know if there's something that destroys the crops, or let's say the orange, or something happened in Florida here and they cannot get all the orange they normally have. Prices are going to go. Oranges are going to worth more, that's not inflation. It's just the market. It's just offer and demand, and it's absolutely normal. It's only inflation when price go up everywhere. So I guess I made that clear enough. That's one of the reason it's so hard to talk about inflation. And by the way, that's one of the reason the MMT guys can say, well, yeah, we can print money and it's not going to cause inflation, simply because they talk about price rise, and also their measurement is off because they base their idea of inflation on CPI. And by the way, CPI does not equal inflation at all. CPI is just a tool that they use to prove that you can print money and not have any inflation like we had in 2008, right? So their argument is basically that, see, we printed so much money during the crisis in 2008, and there was no inflation, basically no inflation in the 2010s. There was no inflation, right? It was even central banks talked about like changing the target because they were not able to reach the 2% target, because and the reason why is because they printed, but the economy didn't. The money did not reach the economy, basically. So it stayed on banks' balance sheet. What they did with the crisis is they just gave more reserve money to the banks to liquefy, make them more liquid. The bank has more healthy balance sheet, but it's all magic because this money was printed out of thin air. And the bank will say, oh, look, we're super healthy. Look at our balance sheet. And the money stayed there for a long time until the 2020s, the pandemic and all that. So all that money, it was potential inflation. Simply when the central bank print money, they give that to the retail banks as like a buffer, and it's just potential inflation. So I think those guys are right. The MMT guys are right, but it's not. It's these and it's not a lie, but it's something. It's not.
It's disingenuous.
It is exactly. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because basically they know that it's potential inflation if that money reach the economy. And we can talk briefly about Japan. Japan is the poster boy of the MMT gang. They will say, look, Bank of Japan print a lot of money and there's no inflation there. It's simply because the money flows to stock market. People are saving the money, and the money go to the real estate market. So those things are not calculated in CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So their measurement of inflation is wrong because it does not include stock market, real estate, and savings. So, and let me conclude this with this idea that Luke Broyle, Luke Broyle was at my home because of the conference in Canada. I'm just off of the conference in Canada, the Canadian Bitcoin conference, where I gave a talk about example of monetary devaluation in history. And Luke came at my place after the conference, and we were discussing this idea that imagine that if you print, if the money that the central bank prints all goes to Bitcoin, it will actually not cause inflation. Exactly like the MT guys say, if that's their idea, if the money goes to the right place, let's say to the military industrial complex in the United States, they will all absorb it. It will not cause inflation. But we can see the same thing with stock market, real estate, and Bitcoin. Imagine that all the money they print goes to Bitcoin. There's going to be no inflation because the money will not reach the economy because people will just hold the Bitcoins. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, what you're referencing is the back in 2008, after the global financial crisis, the TARP program, right? The Troubled Asset Relief Program, which was pulled in by this is what, you know, we're very US centric at the moment. Well, that's where it all started unraveling, right? So this is what the US did, and the numbers are staggering. Like approximately 250 billion was committed in programs to stabilize banking institutions. Like 250 billion just printed straight out to the banks, and like you said, that money just sits on their bank balance sheets. It doesn't get into the hands of retail, of people that perhaps needed the money. Approximately 27 billion was committed through programs to restart credit markets. So they're just like, let's, you know, like we've just crashed the whole market with this whole game over here. Here's 27 billion, just go reset the cards and let's start again. 82 billion was committed to stabilize the US auto industry. 82 billion just to stabilize, you know, car makers. Like it's amazing. And then 70 billion was committed to stabilize American International Group. One company got $70 billion to bail them out. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then you have the modern monetary theorists saying, yeah, well, it didn't cause inflation. And as you've just said, yeah, because like they held on to it, they stuffed their pockets. Thank you very much. And that's why everyone's so angry, because all of the bankers, even though they're that they were bankrupt, everyone's still getting their $400,000 a year salary. Everyone's getting their $2 million bonus package. Same with the car guys, same with AIG. And everybody else is just left scratching their heads. Like, but the MMT guys are, told you, it works. It didn't cause inflation. You know, it's just so crazy to me. And we have this lady, Stephanie Kelton, right now going around like advocating for all of this. And, you know, a big naysayer against Bitcoin. And, you know, us in the Bitcoin realm, we understand that a fixed monetary supply, 21 million, for example, or, you know, 2.1 quadrillion, whatever it turns out to be, if you go down to the nth degree of each sat in each 21 million Bitcoin, is more than enough for a global economy, not a country's economy, a global economy on which to base economic decision-making, all goods and services, to be able to express value across space and time to each other in perfect harmony. And of course, the price of some goods and services are going to go up, some are going to go down, some are going to completely disappear because the market's telling you, we don't need that service, or we need that service and you're just doing a bad job, and I'm going to go and put my money over at this competitor rather than, and there's no bailout. We have this idea of creative destruction. Like, do a good job or get out of town. That's, you know, that's the way that the real boom and bust cycle should work, rather than what we have at the moment with this endless. And here's one thing as well. Many people might not be. I mean, it's mind blowing when you think about it. Each central bank around the world, and I don't know exactly how many there are. That's probably a good stat to know, actually, how many central banks there are.
Maybe 160, something like that.
Okay. Each one of them has a mandate to make sure, an inflation target of at least 2 to 2.5%, depending on which jurisdiction. Let's say 2.5%, at least 2.5% inflation across all goods and services in that country. And Jeff talks about this in his book, The Price of Tomorrow. Imagine having a mandate where you are literally trying to steal 2.5% of the purchasing power of every single person's dollar or euro or pound or yen or whatever currency they're being forced to use. It's insanity.
It is. And it's even worse than that. It's 7%.
What?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's the true inflation. That's not the mandate.
Well, it's not true. Well, that's why it's hard to talk about inflation, because if we have my definition of inflation, it's 7%, because they're printing 7% more money for some decades. There there's three subjects I want to touch.
So,
I took
yeah,
notes.
I remember this
yeah.
discussion with Sailor and Safe where they like the epiphany dropped. It's like, the rate of inflation should be measured by the amount of money entering the system each year.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So go ahead.
So you're saying 7%. Which country is that you're looking at? Canada?
No, you'll see it's 7. The central banks in average print 7% more money each year for decades.
Huh.
So the reason why we see the CPI at 2.5%, it's because we first it doesn't, as we talked earlier, it doesn't measure everything. It doesn't measure stock market. It doesn't measure real estate, include all real estate. And
we should press pause just in case we're losing anybody with the acronym CPI. Let's clear that up first of all. Let's make sure people understand what CPI is, Consumer Price Index, and how it works, because that is really important to understand the smoke and mirrors, the tricks that are going on here. So
exactly. So the consumer price index is a measure of a basket of goods that the government changed every few years to fit their narratives. So let's say that beef is cost more, they will change a bit the basket and to reflect what people are buying. Let's say they will say, well, now people are more buying chicken. And when chicken is more expensive, they will say, oh well, people buy soy now, so we're going to replace some chicken with soy. So they adjust the basket. And also one super stupid thing that there's in this with the CPI is that if you take a computer that was worth $500 4 years ago, and now it costs $200 instead of $500, and it's twice faster, well, it's gonna be like, you're gonna multiply 2 times faster and 3 times cheaper, so it's 6 times less expensive than it was. So it will cancel some of the inflation elsewhere. So it's literally a way to calculate the inflation to fit their narratives. So that's what CPI is, and there's no for the real estate, the housing market, they don't calculate the increase in house prices. They will just basically have a number that they calculate for like average rent or something like that. But you know that if people have their rent for a long time, it's too low. Well, basically it will compensate for the new rents that may be higher. So it's not a perfect way to calculate that. So that's the reason why we end up with, let's say, 2% inflation, even if we print 7% more money. And what I want to add to that is that you can cancel some inflation. Let's say you print 7% more money. Okay, you have 2 or 3% of economic growth that will cancel some of it, and you have the CPI inflation calculation that will reduce it further. So that's why you can print 7% more money for decades and only have a calculated inflation. So when you look at the stock market, that's a great indication of the money we print, because it's going up forever. And
Laura.
That's because we print, Laura, exactly as I was thinking. The stock market's going up forever, Laura, because they print more money, and some of the money they print go there. So that's a good indication that the price there are going up, but it's not included in the calculation. So we have to be careful when we say inflation, when you talk about inflation, because some people think we talk about CPI, but basically, as I said earlier, inflation should be measured like price increase on the whole economy, including real estate and including the stock market. That's my idea of it. If we would calculate it, including real estate and stock market, we would reach the 7%, because it's logical. You add 7% more money, the money will reach real estate and stock market, and if you include everything, I guess you will reach the 7%. Yep. Basically, and
to summarize, it's a monthly metric as well, which is very much worth pointing out. And the monthly metric, it's not a constant. They pick and choose what goes in that basket. It's complete fuckery. In other words, like, and that basket could be absolutely anything. I'm looking at it right now on Investopedia. Apparel, transportation, education, communication, other goods and services. And I love that this is the classic, the haircut. You know, the price of a haircut is hitting. You're like, oh my God, really? So it's just
the best example for France, Daniel, is that I found a reference that if the price of orange juice goes up, but there's more they add more vitamin C in there, they would say that the price didn't go up because it's balanced by the addition of more vitamin. So that's how far they can go to fudge the number, you know.
So like we said, they've got this mandate to make you poorer in purchasing power between 2 to 2.5% per year. But what you've said is what's actually happening is 7% over the last decade, year on year, 7% more money has been printed into the economy. And with the use of this like ridiculous CPI number that they throw out, and everybody even pretends to get excited about, you know, on the mainstream media, there's always huge, big splashes. Wall Street goes crazy on the back of CPI numbers and, like, you know, we're back, baby, bigger than ever, economy booming. And meanwhile, you're walking around the supermarket looking at your basket thinking, huh, how's that cost $150?
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense.
Because they printed more money. And just an example, I heard Sailor, or I think it's Sailor, said for the 7% more money. One of great example of that is look at what's really rare. Let's say beachfront houses. That's one of the great indication that they're printing 7% more money per year, is that this is about the price increase in those really rare thing that are not included in CPI. So if you look at prices of a mansion, beachfront mansion, you'll see that it will absolutely fit how much more money they print each year, because it's a really rare. That's what I want to add, is that you can produce more beach houses, right? Let's say in California, but you can produce more beef or chicken or soy. So if the prices are going up, you will produce more. It will cancel a bit of the price. It's offer and demand. So if it's cost more, if you can sell it for more, they will produce more, and it will even the price. But you can't do that with a beachfront mansion. So that's another reason why let's say chicken is not a good indicator of inflation of the monetary mass, because you can produce more. But beachfront mansion are, because you can produce more. They're already the coast is already full of those mansions. So everyone will be able to bid 7% more money each year, because we add 7% more money each year in the economy. Yep, that's what I wanted to add.
Right. Okay. So we've done a definition of inflation. We've lifted the skirt on the CPI index, and you know, the dirty tricks that they're using to hide the fact that they're actually printing 7% more money into the system year over year, which is obviously pushing the prices of all of our goods and services that we just need, you know, basically to survive. Now, like, obviously, your dear listener, your wage has not gone up 7% per year on year over the last 10 years. I can guarantee you. So
everybody's getting poorer every year, right? It's crazy. Even if we work and we get more efficient at what we do, we have gain of productivity, but we're still getting poorer, because they dilute all this work by printing money, basically.
what I remember how I felt when all of this started clicking. When it started clicking for you, what were your emotions?
Well, I wanted to understand. It didn't make sense. That's why I put so much energy reading all that, like reading Lynn Alden book was a great eye opener too. I wrote I actually, yeah, that's what I wanted to add. I dig kind of deep in MMT because I think those modern monetary theorists are the best marketers for Bitcoin, because they will make you understand how the system work. And as I said earlier, it's they're not wrong. It's just that they're disingenuous, right? That's the word, and that's exactly what I wanted to add earlier, is that you look at their marketing, you say, oh yeah, it makes sense. If we print money and we put the money at the right place, there's not going to be inflation. That could be better off for all the people and stuff. But then you realize that they're not telling you that it's only worked for 7 countries in the world. It only works for countries that are monetary sovereignty. And by the way, France doesn't have monetary sovereignty. As weird as it can sound, they don't control their money. It's the BCE, it's the Europe that control their money. So basically, the MMT guys are saying, yeah, if you live in Canada, Australia, Japan, United States, you can print all the money you want, and if you plan well, it's not going to cause problem for anyone. Well, what about all the countries, all the other countries in the world? Basically, they're exporting their inflation to the poorest country in the world. So to answer your question, is that I needed to dig deep in this theory and learn about inflation to make sense of all of this, because I was like, how can we just print money and well, basically, why would we need to pay taxes if we can print all the money we want? Well, the MNT guys answer that is that it's because you need to pay tax to create demand for the currency, and it's the demand for the currency that give it its value, and also it removes some of the money from the economy, so it tame inflation. So you cannot just print the MMT guys will tell you that you cannot just print an unlimited number of money and not have inflation, because it would cause basically inflation. But if you put it at the right place, put the money at the right part of the economy, and if you taxes back, you're going to remove some of the money of the economy, you can have it like you can have zero inflation. And the last thing I wanted to say is that there are like ecologists that are telling us that we can use this MMT theory to save the planet, basically. So instead of printing money to bail out banks, they say that let's not bail out banks and use that money to do whatever they need to do to save the planet or the climate, and they say that if we put money there, it's not going to cause inflation. And the example I have to explain that to you, and by the way, it's not what I say or what I think. I'm just telling you what MMTers are talking about. And so yeah, the example I can give you, Daniel, to explain you why if you put the money at some place in the economy, it will cause inflation, and somewhere else it won't. If you try to build twice as much roads than last year in the United States, let's say you double the budget for the roads, well, you will obviously cause inflation, because there will not be twice as much as companies that will build those roads. The resources and human resources and machines needed to do that will not just magically appear, right? So it will cause some inflation, because there will be more demand than supply. So it will cause a price shock, and it will cause inflation. But if you send that to the military, industrial, monetary complex in the United States, it will eat all the money. It will not cause inflation. And if you send that to some obscure ecologic project, and they will create more, I don't know, so windmills and stuff like that, I guess it won't cause that much inflation, because those industries will just absorb the money, and that's it. They will invent a new weapon or whatever, and it will flow the money there, and it will cause inflation that calculate in the CPI. So that's what I wanted to add, where the MMT era, these and sorry, the word I can't pronounce,
Disingenuous. Yeah.
disingenuous, thank you. It's that their theory works for the United States, Canada, Japan, but not the other countries. So I think if I want to create a monetary theory that works, I would want to use one that applies to the whole world, not just like the richest country in the world. And second, they will definitely use this MMT argument to flow the money to save the climate or the planet. Believe me, it will happen, and it will say, well, it won't cause inflation. And well, the argument they will use is that they say, let's not save the bank, let's save the planet. That's the slogan they will use for sure in the future to print more money. And people will say, yeah, fuck those bankers, I don't want to save them, let's save the planet instead. It will happen. Well, actually, I have a book written by a French economist that states exactly that. Stop saving the banks, and we'll put the money in where it need to be to save the climate, quote unquote. There you go.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, actually, it's funny you bring up that example because there's a guy in the UK at the moment called Lewis Brackpool who's he's not a Bitcoiner, but I'm getting him on board, hopefully, so people can donate to him. He's doing a lot of work. He's doing a lot of deep dive into what's going on with this exact problem. All of this money that's being printed and is finding its way into these niche little areas that we've been gaslit into believing is, very important for all of human survival over the last 20 years, being told that, the planet's going to fall out of the sky, there's too much carbon dioxide in the air, the global temperatures are getting too high, sea levels are getting too high, there's droughts everywhere, there's, all of it, all of that stuff. UK government is funding, all of this money is being printed and funneled into research, in air quotes, or private companies that are finding the funding through grants and whatever else to carry out like geoengineering projects. It's unbelievable. So this is how dangerous this idea of being able to print money out of thin air is, because guarantee you, on a Bitcoin standard, fixed monetary supply, it doesn't need to be in a Bitcoin standard, fixed money, yeah. whatever you're going to use, fixed supply, that doesn't happen. It happens for maybe, somebody comes up with this great idea. Oh, let's spray silver iodide into the clouds and see if that causes it to rain. And they do it once or twice and it's really expensive. And yeah, it actually did rain and it's wrecked a village. Let's not fucking do that anymore. But in a fiat standard where the money just keeps coming, yeah, let's keep doing that. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's malinvestment, basically.
Yep. Pure malinvestment.
We have a big new mall that they're building right now in Montreal at the corner of two big highways that are already like full of traffic, like 24/7. And they thought it was a good idea to build a brand new like small city there with shop and malls and towers for condos and stuff like that. And believe me, it would not happen if we had a fixed monetary supply. They just did that because they had some extra cash that they want to invest in something and beat inflation, basically. So all those malinvestment cause a lot of can cause like structural problem for cities, because investor, I guess they would maybe put that those buildings elsewhere if it was not for their will to just beat inflation. It's high time preference and low time preference. If they would be more low time preference, they would invest in a place that make more sense than the center of two highways that are already like jammed every 24/7 basically.
So right, so this comes back down to like the person sitting here listening to this right now, like your money is losing purchasing power at minimum 7% per annum, guaranteed. More likely anywhere up to 15 to 20% once you've actually like looked at your day-to-day spend and tried to figure out why am I running 1,000 miles an hour a day on a hamster wheel just to stand still come the end of the month? Like, where's it all going? Why is it if I work harder, I earn more, I get that little extra promotion or whatever it is, that I'm still poorer? because you have to figure out a way to beat that 7% leak.
Yep.
You can't do it in the banks because what are you getting? 0.5 to 1.5%. And please understand that when you give your money to your bank, it's now the bank's money. So it's not even your money. That's another thing for you, like to take a very strong, hard, bitter pill and start learning about, that and fractional reserve banking. This is why David and I have come to settle on Bitcoin as being our store of value. Obviously, everybody's at different levels of their depth in the rabbit hole. But for you, looking back, when did that all start clicking? And how did you start going about thinking, allocating some of your Canadian dollars into Bitcoin?
You said it. It's when I understood the fractional reserve system. On when I realized that private banks created money out of thin air, and that they didn't even use my savings to lend money. They don't need it, basically. And one of my friends once told me something very odd. He said he worked at an investment firm. And one day, one of a very rich guy in Canada came to see him and say, "Well, we would like to invest like 50 million in a project you're promoting." And my friend was like, "Oh yeah, you're a bigger client that we normally have. Why don't you put your money at the bank or something like safer?" Or the guy literally told him, "The banks don't want my money anymore." Because it was a problem for them to give that guy, let's say, 1% or 2% on his $50 million, because their balance sheet didn't need it, because they didn't want to create more credit. Because if they give 2% to this guy, they need to create credit on the other side and like do mortgages and loans to get the money to pay for the interest. So imagine that they didn't want to have more money on their balance sheet, because they basically can create well, they cannot create any number of it because they need something to back it in the balance sheet. It's a fractional part at least. But it made me realize, oh wow, okay, so the money I have in the bank, as you said, is not mine. And second, they're diluting my holding by lending out this. So what the example that really made me realize how stupid the system is that if I want to, let's say I want to redo the bathroom in my house. So if I have if let's say I have the money in my bank account, let's say 20K in the bank account, and I contact a local guy to do it. It's about 20K, and let's go. We sign. We're good. I'm going to have a new bathroom. But let's say that we have a fractional system. There's 3 of my neighbors that want to do the same thing as me, but they don't have the cash in their bank account. Well, they just call the bank and say, "Can you lend me 20K?" Yes. So they will use a part of my 20K as in their balance sheet to give 20K to my first neighbor, and another neighbor will do the same thing. We'll call the bank. I need 20K for, and let's say that there's 3 of my 3 neighbor in my street that do that at the same time, and they call my bank, and they will all borrow money from the fractional reserve of my 20K. So there's going to be 80K demand for the bathroom redoing. So when I call back the guy and say, "Yeah, okay, I'm ready to sign," well, it's not 30K now. I have 4 clients waiting for to redo their bathroom. So it's going to be 25K or 30K now, because there's so much demand. So that's the perfect example of, if you add money to the system, well, there will be more demand than supply someday, and the prices are going up. So in a fixed monetary system, my 20K is the king, because I'm the only one in the street that has 20K to redo. So it's going to just cost me 20K. But if you add more money, competition is there, where there'll be more clients. And so that's where I understand, okay, so that's what dilution of money is. And that's where I understood that Bitcoin, you cannot dilute Bitcoin. You cannot create more Bitcoin. So I guess that it's a better store of value than the cash in my bank account. even not including inflation, you know, because what we talked about is not even inflation, it's just like credit creation through fractional reserve. Crazy, right? Because they print 7% more money each year, but the banking system can create even more through credit creation. So that's kind of crazy to think about that.
And I wrote an article about this. I'll link to the show as well. I'll link it in the show notes about usury, because in this example that you gave, or so let's say the bank, 3 people turn up, call up, and they want the 20 grand loan so they can do their bathroom or the kitchen, or add an extension, conservatory on the back, whatever it might be. And the bank gives them the green light, and they drop the 20K into that person's deposit, deposit the money in the person's bank account, so they can then go and pay the contractor. They, because they're fractionally reserve banking, they just add the money to the bank account. They don't move money from someone else's account. They don't take 5 grand over here, 5 grand. And it's like, no, okay, here's 20 grand, boom. So like the deposit is the loan. Oh, and by the way, you're going to owe us 4.5% on this loan, which you're going to have to pay to us over the next 5 years, let's say. So they like this is the criminality of it all. This is usury in its purest form, because you're charging interest on counterfeit money.
Yep. Basically.
And we've got that happening every single second of every single day, because people are up, they're phoning up, they're desperate. They're phoning up for car loans, sofa loans, television loans, game, like Xbox loans, mortgages at the very top end of that scale. But then it's all going on in a corporate world as well, where you're taking on tens of $1 million of loans if you're you're a property developer or something. Perpetual inflation in our system.
Yep.
Perpetual.
Yes. And to give a little bit of background to the listeners here on how it basically works, is that the only thing that the retail bank have to worry about is when another bank call out the money. Because people might not understand that, but the money they create in your bank account is not worth anything for, well, let's say you are at bank A, okay? And they created 20K for you. Well, this 20K is not worth anything for the bank B. If they would have a transfer, they would need to use the reserve money, the reserve currency from the central bank to do the transfer. So there's 2 levels of money. There's the reserve money from the central bank. So where the retail bank have accounts at the central bank with the reserve money. So they can create credit as much as they want, but the only limit is that they have to keep a buffer of reserve money in their accounts, in their retail bank account at the central bank. So if they need to transfer some of that money to the other bank, let's say bank A send money to bank B. So everything that happens inside the bank A doesn't have to have any backing. It's just numbers on a ledger, basically. So that's the limit here. If people are wondering why they are not create an infinite amount of loans and money, it's just that they need to keep just as much money they need to cover the transfer between banks, and that money is the central bank money. And when we talked about money printing earlier in the podcast, when the central bank create more money to give to the retail banks, that's the reserve currency there. It sits in the bank accounts of those bank A and bank B, and that's the money they exchange. So basically current fiat system is based on 2 level of money. There's the reserve currency that is at the central bank level, and you can't have that. The only way to have some reserve currency in your hand is the bills. The bills are the banknotes, are from the central bank. But all the electronic money that is in the system, if it's inside the bank A, it's just like monopoly money. It doesn't exist. It's just number in database. But the interbanking transfer are money from the central bank that the central bank create out of thin air to give to the retail banks, so they are able to exchange this reserve currency central bank reserve currency for the system to work. So what you have to understand here, to remember here, is that the money that is created in your bank account for your bank, let's say Bank A, is not worth anything for Bank B. If they have to do an exchange, they will use the central bank money to do that because they don't trust each other. I will send you 10K of my database number that I typed in. It's not worth anything for the other bank. Basically, it makes sense, right?
I hope people listening.
Sorry, it's too complicated, but
I just hope that especially the people that are new here are taking note. And like I said, I remember I started getting it's like the 7 stages of grief, right? When you start learning about this, first of all, it's just denial. It's like, what? No, what are you talking about? And most people still believe, to this day, most people still believe that the amount of money in your bank account is in a safe little vault somewhere, and it's all piled up in bills, and behind that wall is another bigger vault full of gold, and that's representative of the amount of, like, that's all gone, guys. That's so far gone. And explaining that to boomers, they're like, no, like just a wall of denial. You're like, okay, this is going to be tough. But then when you do break down that wall of denial, anger, like that's where you go next. And that's when you really got to get control.
That's when you're ready for Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, that is when you're ready for Bitcoin. It is, because like, fuck this. Like, I'm not playing this rigged game anymore.
I actually have a perfect example of that. That precisely happened this weekend at the Canadian Bitcoin conference. We has this MP here, member of parliament. His name is Joël Lightbound. He's part of the Liberal Party here. He's a MP of Justin Trudeau, and he's a progressive, right? He's they are liberals here are the progressive. And I get the idea of progressive, taking care of people and making sure people have service, fine. But he went on the stage and without precisely naming it, he showed us that he understands inflation and the real cause of inflation. So think about that. It's a current MP of a member of Parliament of Canada right here, of the actual government of Justin Trudeau. He came on in a Bitcoin conference, and he basically said that inflation is part of the problem. At least he acknowledged that. So I was really, really impressed by him, and I really liked to hear him say that. And I talked to him after his presentation to congratulate him, because I was like, man, I think your research, or he said that he said that he read Broken Money from Lynn Allen. That's a great achievement for anyone who is interested in this subject. So I was really impressed, and he gave me an example of where let's say a fixed monetary supply fits with his value. He said that he was really proud that there's kind of some handouts here in Canada for family. If you have some kids, you're going to see some payments every year, and it did, as he said, that it helped like get some kids out of poverty. So that's the progressive thinking. I do get that. He said that we implement this system and we got some kids out of poverty, but he does realize that if let's say you give $2,000 per year to a single mother, but her rent goes up $500 per month, you didn't achieve anything. You're right. So the guy said that, the actual said that, so he gets it. So he mean, yeah, we can be correct. He's a progressive. He want to help people, but he realized that if you help people out of print, you print money to help people, well, you're going to get caught by inflation later. It's going to be worse. And I heard a discussion between him and a guy, one friend of mine, Phil Champagne. Let's say it's the author of Book of Satoshi. Yep. He said that, but you realize that if we have a fixed monetary supply, the government is going to be smaller, and you're not going to be able to give those handouts to people. And he said, yes, Joel said that, yes, I realized that. And so So Phil said, what's your solution? He said, well, we're going to have to increase taxes. And you know what? I agree. I mean, I don't agree. I don't agree that we need to increase taxes, but if you're a progressive like him and you want the system to work and do those handout, you got to do it transparently. That's all I ask. You want to live in a country that you pay a lot of taxes, have a lot of service, and hand out to the poorest people, fine. Do it. But tax the people transparently so the people will be able to choose. You don't like the system, they will leave. And that's fine. I don't care. But you know what I mean? It's not that it's not that I agree with that, but I just want, if you want to pursue a dream of a society that help everyone and that have high taxes, go for it. But tax the people transparently. Don't use inflation as a hidden tax to finance your program. That's how I see it. And I was really impressed by this guy, Joel Lightbound, that seems to understand that. If those countries that want to do big government, big services, and hand out money to people, okay, you can do it, but do it transparently so people will vote you out if they don't agree, basically. But now it's just that, oh yeah, we have money for everything. We can print money and we can give people services to everyone, but everyone gets poorer in the end, 7% per year. As we said, that can't work for on the long run. It's stupid, and it make people poorer. So if progressive would understand money, I guess they could have their system working by being more transparent, and people after that can choose if they want to live in a society like this or not. That's what I wanted to add. I really felt great seeing that at least some progressives seems to understand that.
So it's and you just touched on this thing, which people might have been scratching their heads over, about inflation being a hidden tax.
Yep.
And so you've basically just, summarized that. Every time you print money into the system, the cost of everything else is going to go up. That is essentially a hidden tax, because you are essentially paying more come the end of the year for the same goods and services. They're either the same quality or even less. Goodness, we didn't even touch on shrinkflation.
Yeah, shrinkflation.
All right, shrinkflation, ladies and gentlemen, which is a direct cause of the effect of inflating the monetary supply. And one of my favorite examples is the Toblerone. Back in the
There's
day,
less triangles.
Yeah, so you get the peaks, right? The triangles, and to hide. Because what producers are forced to do is either raise prices on the consumer, and then you're the bad guy and the president screams about you and whatever else, or you downgrade the quality of your ingredients, or you downgrade the amount of the good. And in the case of Toblerone, what they did is they kept the thing the same size, the same length, so visually it looks exactly the same. Yeah. When you pick it up, you can't really feel the difference. You can't feel that there's maybe 20-30 grams less in the thing. But what they did was they used, let's say in a basic Toblerone, there used to be 12 peaks, 12 triangles that you would snap off. That soon become 11, and the gaps just between each one got a little bit extra. That's the lengths that these companies are forced to go to. And please don't buy or eat Toblerone because you shit talk chocolate, and you can buy much better things, but this is just an example. But when you walk around and you're doing your daily shop, you can see like the packets are the same size, but there's a lot more fresh air in there than the good that you're buying. Potato chips are a classic example, breakfast cereals. But again, people, please don't stop eating these things anyway, because they're full of seed oils and crap and sugar, and they're going to give you diabetes. But it's so bad. It's happening in every single product.
And what you just said is basically the reason why I would oppose to a government school meal program. if it's something they're talking about right now in Canada, like giving out lunch to kids, so every kids can eat. Another progressive
of course.
thing, because in Canada it's very, very progressive. But why I would oppose to that? Basically because of inflation. Because at first the meal are, I guess they're going to be great. They're going to be like the people that's going to make sure that they have all the vitamins, proteins, or whatever. It may be good, but every year with the 7% inflation, the supplier of that program will need to crunch his prices because the government won't give him 7% more a price increase every year. So he's gonna try to, and at the end, after like, let's say 5 or 10 years, the meal they're going to serve are going to be shit because the government will not give more money to the supplier, and we end up with fast food that don't cost as much. So the quality will depreciate every year for sure, because the government won't accept a 7% price inflation per year, right? So they will have to cut somewhere, and it's going to end up being shitty for sure. And as a parent, I can adjust to that. If the prices are going up, I will still feed correctly my kids, right? But if you're in the place of the supplier of all those meals for the kids, they have to balance their budget, and things are going to get more expensive, and the government won't budge and pay more. So basically, it's sure that it's going to be shit at the end of the cycle. So that's the reason I would not believe in that program, because for sure my kids won't eat as well as when it's me that provide the food for their lunch, for sure.
100%, mate. It's a disaster across France, at secondary level and at the high school level, the lycée, that the food is just mass-produced dog shit. And same across the UK. There's a very famous series Jamie Oliver put together called School Dinners. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Like a 6-part series, just going around and showcasing like the absolute state of state school food. Wow. And we wonder, like, I wonder why the kids have all got, behavioral problems and diabetes, and they're fat, and they're, what could it be? The nutrition, guys? Do you think?
Could it?
Like, like the crap that they're putting in their mouths, the breakfast cereals that they're shilled every freaking day on television, and then the nutritionally void sludge food that they're given for lunch at school. It's like, and all of that is linked to malinvestment, and like,
and inflation.
And inflation.
They have to improve with quote unquote improve their process to make the cost go lower, but with that the quality go down, because it at the end it's just and as you said, industrial sludge, because there's some limit that you have if you want to do like real quality food and made and cooked locally. So I would not, because of inflation, I would not have great hope for those kind of projects. As you were telling me, it already happens in the UK and France, and here we've been saved up until now about that. But and that's always like that with government. They say, "Oh, we need to feed the children. It's a good thing and stuff." And in the end, 5 years later, the inflation process come. And yeah, basically they have to decrease quality for sure. Well, we see that everywhere. Quality is going down because of inflation. That's as easy as that.
All right. Well, I think we've done. I think we've covered it all, mate. So I'm hoping that this has been a good refresher lesson for those people that are already in the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Maybe it's sharpened your narrative a little bit when you're orange pilling your friends and your family, and this subject comes up at home, which it invariably will, because it's always on the news, and the cost of living crisis, as it's told in the UK. I don't know whether that's the trope in Canada as well, but people don't understand it. And so it's up to us, anybody that's listened to this episode, to go out there and try and help educate as many people as they can about what's going on and why Bitcoin fixes this, because it is a fixed money supply. and slowly moving out of your fiat into Bitcoin is the best way to do that over the next handful of years, and you're going to save yourselves from this doom.
We have the the now. That's a great thing. We can opt out. It's kind of new. So there was gold before, I guess, but gold is not digital. It doesn't fit the world we live in, and Bitcoin is digital. So I guess it's a great way. If you all understand all that, I guess it's a great way to opt out of the system. So basically, thanks Satoshi Nakamoto, I guess, that after the great financial crisis came out with this idea, and I guess he understood inflation, and that's why now we have this tool that can help us opt out.
Exactly. All right, David, last question. If you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give it to and why?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. Would it be better like someone who has like great power and can no, you know what? No. Um I I wouldn't do that. You know what? I want to just orange pill my neighbor one by one. I don't want anyone to like impose the thought or I guess if the first time I answered the question I was like, yeah, we need to find someone that has reach and you know it. No, you know what? Now I'm more like one to one. So I would give that pill to my neighbor and the second pill to the other one, and we have to talk to them one by one doing podcasts like that. So my minding has changed in that I think it's a grassroots initiatives. So we have to touch people one by one, either by books, by podcast, by articles we publish, so it's not a top down thing. It's a grassroots movement. So we need to give those pills to everyone one by one.
Love it, mate. Thank you very much for coming on. And yeah, look forward to seeing you. Are you going to come across to Europe for any conferences?
Not this year. Hey, and Daniel, if you want, let me just add one thing. I have some videos that I recorded about the subject we touched today, and I didn't release it yet on YouTube, but they are available. So I'm going to release them officially, and maybe you can link that in the podcast. So the subject we talked about today, I do a deep dive in those videos. So I guess it will, if this podcast interested some of you, you will be able to click on those links and go deeper and go deeper in the rabbit hole of the subject we just covered today. So I guess that instead of keeping them for myself, I guess that it will be help people if they want to understand more about inflation. So that's
love it. Thank you. Yeah, send them to me once they're uploaded and you've got the link, and I'll add them to the show notes. So
perfect.
People can check them out. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. And a shame we're not going to get to see you in Europe. I'm not scheduled to be over in Canada or the US, so maybe we'll see each other in 2025. Fingers crossed.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you,
all right, brother. Take care.
Bye.